Can y'all hear me now? Mic check, testing 1 2 1 2. Because if you can't hear me now, that means I'm gonna have to start this stream all over again. I know it's a 10-second delay, so let's see. We're good. Yes, you can hear me. All right. All right. What a way to start off. Oh, this is hilarious. What a way to start off the broadcast. All right. Let's run it back since y'all didn't hear me for about 3 minutes. Greetings, Black family, and welcome to On the Wake Up Radio. I am your host, DC Radical One, and you have entered the center. Shout out to our wonderful producer, Cindy Ashby. You can check us out at SoundCloud, YouTube, iTunes Podcast, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, and iHeartRadio at On the Wake Up Radio. Also, you can check us out at onthewakeupradio.com. That's onthewakeupradio.com, as well as otwtube.com. otwtube.com. Now, let's go through the roll call. We got first in the house, Real Talk with ZSJ, who says yo to you. BB for Hodier to Brother You Got Ripped Off. BB for Hodier to Elijah Gaines. For some reason, my phone is still making noises despite being silenced. Black Power to Nubia Patah. Be before the Straight Black Pride to Sister Vanessa. Hey to Unique One Express. Straight Black Pride to John Public. Peace and Light to the Integrated School Psychologist. And Sister Vanessa says Barack Insane Obama. Indeed. Be before the Straight Black Pride to Africa Ra. Peace and blessings to Malik Amadou. And I think that's just about everybody other than Lee Clinton. Peace to you. And I think I have greeted just about everyone. Sister Matrell, greetings to you. So, we had a good number of people come in early, which is good. And I know that there are some people that are going to listen later because they are in a meeting right now. At least I think so. So, first announcement. This is going to be a rare week, so I'm going to tell y'all to enjoy it. There's another video coming tomorrow. It's already been posted and set up. And then there's another video that's going to be posted the next day. And probably 2 more videos after that. So this is one of the rare weeks where I will probably have a full week's worth of content within a week. Just feeling like posting content. I haven't posted content. Y'all know how it is. It's 2 things. One, as I said last week, I don't get paid for this because, of course, YouTube doesn't like what I post. And I currently, weirdly enough, I have a community strike for something I posted 2 years ago, and they gave me the strike seemingly 3 months ago, which means it should have expired. Well, actually, it's a warning. It's not a strike. It's a warning. And that's still up. So whatever. But a lot of things are taking place. So I guess you can check the page and see what's tomorrow. And later in the week, because I have to check and make sure, that's the only reason I didn't do the video. The John Roger Pope, DJ Kid, human trafficking, sexual abuse case is supposed to open today, or supposed to have opened today. I just want to check and make sure that if so, then I will do the video on that. because his case has been delayed, as you know, since I think he was arrested 2019. It's 2023. So I wanted to cover that, update that case because it's been so long and people have forgotten. Um, the Robert Kennedy situation, I definitely want to cover that. That's very interesting. And God, it was something else. But yeah, that's what we have set up. And excuse me, you can see tomorrow's case. I mean, you can see tomorrow's video listed on the page, dealing with a college professor who was fired for apparently doing this job. It's really weird, but it's very interesting because you're going to see a lot of things like that, where it's going to be a lot of adjudication, a lot of lawsuits, a lot of discussion coming up. So, with that, let's get into today's discussion. And this is one of those rare times where I compiled a lot of information and then I loaded it up and then I said, well, now what? Right? Normally I have an idea and a narrative and then I get the information. Well, I had the idea, but I didn't have the narrative. And so when I compiled all the information, it was so much information. It's like, okay, now what do I do with this? So what we're going to do is, and the discussion is, I termed it how Barack insane Obama, I ain't say the insane part, turned out black people. And what I mean by that is that if we remember back in, let's say, 2000, all of us who are old enough to remember, we understand that black people in America had black people in America were the most conservative people in regards to what would now be called LGBT issues. Like most black people, I don't know if they were using these terms back then, but most black people just wasn't with it. Were very conservative. A lot of church people are very conservative, despite the choir director's history. People generally like, I don't like it, but as long as it's over there, that was the general attitude of black people. And then came Obama, and you know, as he quote unquote evolved on this issue, um, black people seemingly evolved on the issue as well. And so now we're at a point now where we see a lot of our young people involved in this. It's open that we see a lot of our young males who have not, don't have fathers in the home, don't have that male influence. The rappers are very effeminate. We got guys wearing dresses, guys painting their toenails, their fingernails, earrings, tattoos, colored hair, skinny jeans. Yeah, that like that. What I just described is literally the standard rapper uniform nowadays. That doesn't include the guys just putting on whole dresses and stuff. I didn't even talk about that. So it's obvious that our young people have been influenced by what's going on. And next week, I don't know if it'll be Sunday or Monday, but I plan to do the new culture wars. We will discuss the new culture wars as far as sexualization of children, the teaching of explicit sexual stuff in school, and the fight that's been going on with that, which I haven't seen covered a whole lot. Y'all let me know if y'all seen it covered as far as people resisting and fighting some of these books and things like that, and with people like not what's Chelsea Clinton recommending some of these books. So we'll get into that. Brother Jeannie's been on the front lines with that, and I don't know when, but we're gonna have Brother Jeannie on either the end of this month or the beginning of Black August. And he'll talk about some of the things he's been doing and things he plans to do upcoming. For those who haven't heard, and I do not have the flyer on me, Brother Jeannie is having planning a live stream discussion with noted Klansman David Duke. Now, some of you may ask, and you can ask right now if you like, why would he do that? There's a method to the madness, as they say. So let's start with our first article, and we're gonna go through a lot of stuff. But I want us to go back in time to the early 2000s and to Black people and how we thought and how we dressed and how we acted. And this is before Barack Obama was the president. I'm talking about before he was running for president, when he was state senator Barack Obama. By the way, I forgot to mention, this video may be taken down before the night is through, because I have a very controversial clip that has been forgotten from history and virtually purged. But we dug it up, dusted it off, and we're going to play it tonight. Why? Because why not? Last week, I believe I talked about the reason I don't get paid from YouTube is the truth. We're not going to duck the truth. We're going to bring the truth back up. So with that, let's get started with our first article. Don't give away the surprise before the surprise arrives, good brother. All right. This is from Politico back in 2008. It says Obama says marriage is between a man and a woman. And it simply says Obama declined to say when a baby gets human rights, as Warren puts it. I think whether you're looking at it from a theological perspective or a cultural perspective, to answer it with that specificity is above my pay grade, Mr. Obama responded. The low murmur from the crowd was a sharp contrast with the loud applause to Obama's response to gay marriage a few seconds later. As to define marriage, Obama said, it is the union between a man and a woman. Obama supports abortion rights, putting him at odds with many evangelical Christians and making it one of his biggest stumbling blocks in winning their vote. Obama went on to emphasize reducing unwanted pregnancies, which would in turn reduce the number of abortions. As if he ever voted to reduce or limit abortions, Obama said that he favors a ban on late-term abortions as long as there are exceptions to the mother's health. Now, why is this important? Because at the time, let's see. Brother Malik says African Muslim families have been resisting the homophile agenda strong in Montgomery County, Maryland. Indeed, they have. Now, at the time, if we think back, we look at this article, right? There was great controversy about the definition of marriage, right? Now, when I was thinking about this, right, I was like, you know what? As we sit here And I'm going to play Obama, one of his, I think I got it, a minute video of him stating his gay marriage position. But you know, the thing about it is, here's the part that I thought about. I was like, wow, nobody ever. We just looked at it and he was opposing gay marriage. But Obama, even when he was opposing gay marriage, was pro homosexual. In fact, let me load this clip up and we're going to listen to him because it's only a minute long. And you'll understand what I'm saying as you listen to this clip.
I think same-sex couples should be able to get married.
President Obama, 24 hours after making history, he's making money.
Did he do it because he thought it was right, or did he do it for political reasons? 67% said political.
That actually is not. That's not the one I wanted. My bad, wrong video. Let's try this one again.
With respect to the issue of whether gays and lesbians should be able to get married, I've spoken about this recently. As I've said, my feelings about this are constantly evolving. I struggle with this. I have friends, I have people who work for me, who are in powerful, strong, long-lasting gay or lesbian unions. And they are extraordinary people. And this is something that means a lot to them and they care deeply about. At this point, what I've said is that my baseline is a strong civil union that provides them the protections and the legal rights that married couples have. And I think that, and I think that's the right thing to do. But I recognize that from their perspective, it is not enough. And I think this is something that we're going to continue to debate, and I personally am going to continue to wrestle with going forward.
But the military does not recognize civil
I understand.
unions, right?
And as I said, this is going to be an issue that is not unique to the military. This is an issue that extends to all of our society, and I think we're all going to have a conversation about it.
Now, if you listen very closely, right, while this debate about gay marriage was going on, Mr. Obama was clearly pro-homosexual, right? We tend to just kind of forget that, right? Because, I mean, this was like one of those smooth political things. Because remember, Obama is allegedly a Christian, according to him, right? And he's part of Reverend Wright's church, which, remember Reverend Wright's church, this will come back later. And as a Christian, and as a Black Christian, you, at that time, not only is, first of all, the idea of gay marriage doesn't even come into play because homosexuality is wrong, period. You see what I'm saying? Now, I'm not a Christian, but my parents and my grandparents were Christian. I used to read the Bible as a child. I am well aware of the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, as we all are. Of all the things that God was against, right? One of the things that he just said, enough's enough, and absolutely obliterated was Sodom and Gomorrah. And in the story, I believe it's Lot. It's like, hey, man, don't mess with these people. Here, you can have my daughters. And they like, we don't need your daughters. And then, according to the Bible, God's like, all right, let me just eradicate this place off the face of the earth. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of hard if you claim you believe in the Bible to read that and think, you know what? Let's debate gay marriage. There is no equivocation there at all. None. Zero. There's no room for debate. There's very few things in the Bible where a specific place is eradicated for one specific reason. It wasn't like, the flood thing where everybody's kind of out of control and you're like, oh man, I messed up. Let me restart the whole thing. It's like, no, this place is so bad. I don't even want to destroy it so people can find it. I just want to obliterate it. You see what I'm saying? And so it's always hilarious to me because he put on this facade of debating this. Oh man, I'm wrestling with it and blah, blah, blah. And this and this and that. But then he says, in essence, some of my best friends are gay, right? He's really telling us something when he's saying some of his best friends were gay. But we're going to get to that. But at the same time, while Obama was evolving on this issue, right? And Brother Malik says his supposed opposition to gay marriage was purely political. He's always been a homosexual, without question. But the history has gotten, revised and we kind of forget. But while he was allegedly, after making this statement, debating this, right? I'm going to show you how his changing position changed our position. I'm going to use Maryland as an example. So we're going back in time. I don't know why I got this off the Los Angeles Times instead of something local, but it is what it is. It says Maryland voters' support for same-sex marriage slips, right? It's going backwards. Now, mind you, this was 1 month before the election on gay marriage in Maryland at the time. And this says Capitol Heights, Maryland, which is, I was trying to think. Nah, I can't. I started to say, can I walk to Capitol Heights? Yeah, nah, I can't walk to Capitol Heights. But Capitol Heights, Maryland is, I guess, technically borders DC. Yeah, it does. I was trying to think. Yeah, Capitol Heights borders DC. So that's how close it is. It borders DC. With just a month ago poised to become the first state in the country to back gay marriage by popular vote, Maryland is now reported to be deadlocked on the issue, in part because of a drop in support from religious blacks. From who? From religious blacks. Right? Now that makes perfect sense. Based on what I just said, you would expect black people in a place like PG County and Baltimore County, which would have, I think those are two of the three biggest counties in Maryland, if I'm not mistaken, population-wise. And they have a large population of black people. So you would expect that to be the case, right? So it says, only a few weeks ago, polls were suggesting Marylanders were leaning towards supporting gay marriage, but as November approached, the numbers have tightened. The change appears to be partly driven by black pastors in Maryland urging their congregations to vote against the measure. During a sermon in October, Pastor Harold L. Duggar of First Baptist Church in Prince George's County asked his congregation to go to the polls to cast their votes against same-sex marriage. No vote means you've already voted. We stand firmly on what? The word of God. Your faith has a lot to do with what you do at the polls. So again, right? Black people who are Christian, as Obama said he's a Christian, were clear in their stance on this issue at this time. A poll conducted in late September for the Baltimore Sun showed the measure to legalize same-sex marriage ahead by 10 percentage points, with more than 50% of the African Americans supporting the idea, despite the opposition from black churches. A quarter of black respondents opposed it. Since then, voters in Maryland have been exposed to a media blitz with both sides airing TV ads in an effort to swing undecided voters their way. The latest polling for the Sun, conducted October 20th to 23rd, The Annapolis, Maryland firm Opinion Works now shows 50% of black voters against same-sex marriage, with 42% supporting the idea. Right? After his recent Sunday service, Duggar said his opposition to the measure does not lessen his support for, and this is the mistake right here. This is where black people go wrong with a lot of stuff. Let's listen to what he says. Does not lessen his support for President Obama, who has endorsed the legalization of gay marriage. But for me, as a biblicist, I will always take the position that same-sex marriage is wrong. Stop right there. What's the problem? The problem is, before they to East Shore Entertainment, here's the problem. As black people, we take a position, right? Somebody that's supposed to represent us or somebody that we like personally or whatever, some personality that they pull up, they take a position opposite of our position. And instead of us saying, oh, this person doesn't represent what we believe in, let's throw him out, we try to support the person and the position, and the person is going to betray us because and publicly, and half the time they tell us straight to our face, as it was the case here, right? Now the pastor is telling this shows a contradiction. This shows how double-minded we are sometimes. The pastor is telling his congregation, hey, we got to stand against this. This is wrong. I'm a biblicist. This is my position. This is a position. We stand on the word of God, God, faith, and all these words. But the man who is contradicting your position, you still support him. Based on what? Other than the cult of personality. And so we see just by that, right? This somebody standing in opposition on the issue. Just by that shows you that Obama had the power to change the minds of black people on this issue because we were too scared to oppose him and force him to represent us, right? Now, let's go to the next article. It says, Obama's shift on gay marriage tilts U.S. attitudes, right? It's from Reuters. And it says President Barack Obama's declaration of support for gay marriage may have prompted some Americans, especially blacks and Hispanics, to reconsider their opposition to letting homosexuals wed. An analysis of Reuters Ipsos online poll data showed. May 9th, Obama became first gay president. My bad. That was a Freudian slip there. Obama became the first U.S. president to say he believes same-sex couples should be allowed to get married. His position was hailed by Democrats, gay rights groups, and others as a benchmark for civil rights in the United States and criticized by Republican activists and conservative Christian leaders as a divisive campaign issue before the November 6th election. The poll data found that African Americans in particular were less likely to oppose gay marriage after Obama's announcement than before. Before May 9th, 34% opposed gay marriage. After, 23% opposed gay marriage. The poll asked participants whether they opposed gay marriage, supported same-sex unions, supported gay marriage, or were unsure. Lower opposition by Black Americans did not translate into support for gay marriage, according to the data. Support by African Americans for civil unions rose by 9 percentage points to 28% after Obama spoke, but support for gay marriage slipped by 2%. Now, here's the thing about that, right? Just by his statement, even though people at the time didn't completely flip, they made a way for people to go from I'm against all of this to, oh yeah, they can have civil unions. Remember, Black people's original position was, man, get all of this out of here. Obama comes along, start doing his Obama magic, talking that slick talk, and slowly but surely he moves us along the path. Now, understand, here's the thing. This was 11 years ago. As time has passed, he simply opened up the door for all the gayness to come marching in, right? Now, look at one more. It says African American church leaders condemn Obama for gay marriage support, right? Now, this is what I'm talking. Now, this is, see, if you're gonna stand strong, you gotta stand strong. And I had to at least bring this up because somebody was willing to hold the line at the time. It says just days after President Barack Obama announced his support for same-sex marriage, pastors and priests around Maryland took to their own pulpits with their reaction and, in some cases, condemnation of the president. Derek Valcourt explains the president's comments had folks on both sides of the issue fired up. Both sides hope the president's position helps sway votes in their favor when the issue hits Maryland ballots in November. Says, I think Obama said he thinks same-sex marriages should get married. When Obama announced his position on same-sex marriage had evolved, it outraged some African-American pastors like Pastor and Delegate Emmett Burns. He said to his base African-Americans, I'm going against your beliefs and your thoughts, Burns said. He's so opposed to same-sex marriage, he told church members he would no longer support the president and predicts Obama will lose the election because of it. Unfortunately, he was incorrect. I think it might be a call to action for people to really express what they believe, Father Eric Arnold of Our Lady of Perpetual Help said. In Maryland, some of the strongest opposition to the law has come from where? The Black community, about 30% of the population. Some African American religious leaders are preaching about it. God said in every home there needs to be a representation of his glory through manhood and femininity. Pastor Harry Jackson, Hope Christian Church in Beltsville, said, to me, this is an issue of separation of church and state. Pastor Delman Coates, Enon Baptist Church in Clinton, said. Coates is one of the few Black pastors who supports the current law. We should not allow our subjective theological understandings to prevent other citizens of this country to have equal rights. So far, voters in 30 states have rejected same-sex marriage. Now, hold up. That's interesting. Think about that. Bibi Fahodier Rebe. At the time, 30 states out of 50 had already rejected gay marriage. And then the Supreme Court comes and just eradicates that opposition. Man. All right. Next article. Right? Real quick. Maryland, Maine, Washington approved gay marriage. The vote was held as a watershed moment by gay rights activists. While same-sex unions have been legalized in 6 states and the District of Columbia, by lawmakers or courts, voters had consistently rejected doing so. Voters in more than 30 states had approved constitutional bans on gay marriage. It says, I don't know who we is. Oh, Brian Elner. Yeah, I don't know what that do. We made history and sent a powerful message that we have truly reached a tipping point on gay and lesbian civil rights in this country, said Brian Elner, head of pro-gay marriage group, The Four. By winning for the first time on marriage at the ballot box, he made it clear that national polls already show that Americans support fairness and equality for all families. Now, to Maryland, says in Maryland, the measure passed 52 to 48. Now, let's think about that. We heard earlier that literally the numbers were inverse before that. And then Obama came, said his piece, and completely inverted the numbers from 52-48 against to 52-48 for. just by stating his support, right? And we don't really think about it, but by giving a legal shield, it opens up the door for everything else that came behind it. Now you can't go anywhere, watch anything. You know what I'm saying? Can't breathe air without a rainbow magically appearing from somewhere. Speaking of which, I'm trying to think, do I have I don't have that clip. I didn't load up the clip with whatever. I had a clip with Obama talking about turning the White House rainbow colors and how cool it was and how he didn't get a chance to see it, go outside and see it and all this, right? So here's the question that I have not yet asked. And y'all tell me, when I grew up, you rode with and represented the people that you were down with, right? For example, if you were at the time, Redskin fan, you wore Redskin paraphernalia, like the Washington football team that was known as the Redskins at that time. So you wore the burgundy and gold jacket, hat, scarf, jersey, you name it. But that's who you was down with. If you were a New York Giant fan or an Eagle fan or some other team, then you wore that paraphernalia because that was who you rocked with, right? If you were a Laker fan, that's who you rock with. If you were from a certain part of the city, you know what I'm saying, you would represent that and you would hang with other people from that city. Even when I went to college, many times, if you met other people from where you were from, you would hang out with them. Or if you were a member of a religious order, like, when I was young, part of the nation, you hang with the people in the nation. Or if you were just generally a conscious dude, you find and hang with the other conscious dude, or whatever the case may be, right? You rock with the people that you had stuff in common with. So comes the question, why is Obama had so many homosexual friends? Why was he so willing to back homosexual issues? That is a question that I don't think we ever asked. Because I'm going to be honest. Me and Obama, I think Obama's actually older than me. And I know he didn't grow up in the Black community, so that is a difference. But in my day, the only people that hung with homosexuals were homosexuals. That's all I'm saying. The only people that put themselves on the line for homosexuals were homosexuals. People disown their own family members. You understand what I'm saying? I'm saying there's a different time period. This time period I grew up in. So logically, for us, if you look at somebody and they pro-gay and they throwing up rainbows because that's their set. I mean, if you throwing up rainbows, that's your set. If I'm in LA and I see a dude wearing all red, I'm going to assume that he's a blood and I'm going to get out of his way. If I see a dude that is rocking all blue, I'm going to assume he's a Crip and I'm going to get out of his way. And when I see somebody rocking all rainbows, you know what I assume, right? So now that we have thought about this and we presented this information and we shown Mr. Obama's evolution and his influence on us, right? Where more young people now identify as LGBT, more Black young people, in fact, more young people in general, but more Black young people identify as LGBT. since Obama's time. In fact, hold up. Before I go there, let's read this article. Now, this is from 2012, which was interesting. It says blacks are more likely to identify as gay than any other group. Now, this is from George Curry, an informer. I remember George Curry. Anyway, says blacks are more likely to identify themselves as lesbian, gay, bisexual, or transgender than any other group, racial or ethnic group in the nation, according to a poll by Gallup. The poll of 121,290 individuals, the largest U.S. survey of its kind, found that 3.4% of all Americans identify as lesbian, gay, bisexual, or transgender. The figures were higher for quote-unquote people of color, with 4.6% of blacks identifying in that, followed by 4.3% of Asians, 4% of Hispanics, and 2.2% of non-Hispanic whites. And it says, and those numbers are probably low. Now, I'm just going to stop right there. That's almost 1 in 20 at that time. And we know now, I actually had an article I read where the numbers are even further. The question I had was this something that people were more willing to say because Obama was helping to change the climate? Or were our numbers even higher then and we don't know it? Because 1 out of 5 is basically, 5% is 1 in 20. And of course, the survey, it's only a small amount of people, 121,000. We're allegedly 47 million. But still, I found that interesting, right? Now we're going to get to the controversial part. Brother, You Got Ripped Off has already revealed it. We're going to listen to a gentleman who spoke at the National Press Club, which is here in Washington, D.C., and made some controversial statements. Doesn't even come close to covering this. The only reason we're going to listen to it is because I just want us to think about what we looked at so far. And then we're going to talk about the ramifications of what this person says. And we're also going to talk about, because I'm going to ask you all how many people have heard this. And we're going to talk about why this story wasn't used by Obama's enemies at the time. Because remember, we had a lot of people who allegedly hated Obama. A lot of people. When he was running. He won despite that. And none of them used this information that was out at the time. And this is literally one of the most scandalous things I've heard said about somebody running for president. And remember, this is also at the same time where what's the guy's name? John Edwards had to fall out the race because of some controversy. So we're going to look at this clip. It's about 5 minutes long, and then we're going to come back and discuss why this was seemingly erased from history.
My name is Larry Sinclair. I'm a former recreational drug user, drug trafficker, and I'm a convicted felon for crimes of forgery, bad checks, and theft by check. But I'm also an American citizen. I love this country, and I cannot stay silent regarding Barack Obama, knowing what I know. Today I will discharge my obligation as a citizen to witness this knowledge to you and raise questions for others to investigate and consider. I'm going to briefly describe my background and experiences with Senator Obama. In 1999, what appears to me to be a coordinated effort to discredit me, and finally a list of questions After this brief statement, I will take and try to answer any reasonable questions. On November 5th, 1999, I hired the services of Five Star Limousine. Excuse me. I had hired them both for November 5th and November 6th of 1999. On November 6, 1999, I asked the limo driver, whose name I now reveal for the first time, Jagir Paramit Mutani, if he knew anyone who would like to socialize and show me Chicago. Mr. Mutani understood that I was looking for someone who knew Chicago and would enjoy socializing. Mr. Mutani said he knew someone who was a friend of his. On November 6, 1999, after picking me up at the hotel in Gurnee, and this is significant, Mr. Mutani used his cell phone to make a call. That call was made to then Illinois State Senator Barack Obama to set up an introduction between myself and Senator Obama. Upon arriving at the bar and exiting the limo, Senator Obama was standing next to Mr. Mutani, and I was introduced to Senator Obama by name. Later that evening in a bar which I believe was called Alibis, and I state believe because I have failed so far to get Citigroup to provide the credit card receipts that has the actual name. I mentioned I could use a line or two to wake up. Senator Obama asked me if I was referring to Coke, and I stated I was. After stating I was, Obama stated he could purchase cocaine for me and then made a telephone call. This too is significant, from a cell phone to a presently unknown individual, during which Senator Obama arranged the cocaine purchase. Senator Obama and I then departed the bar in my limousine and proceeded to an unknown location where Senator Obama exited the limousine with $250, which was provided to him by me. Returned a short while later with an 8-ball of cocaine, which he gave to me. I did ingest a couple of lines of cocaine, and shortly thereafter, Senator Obama produced a glass cylinder pipe and packet of crack cocaine from his pocket. Obama then smoked the crack cocaine. I performed fellatio on Senator Obama in the limousine during the time Senator Obama was smoking crack cocaine, after which I had the driver take me to my hotel, the Comfort Suites, Gurnee, Illinois. The following day, November 7th, 1999, Senator Obama appeared at my hotel room, unannounced, uninvited, where we again ingested cocaine, and I again performed fellatio on Senator Obama. In late September to early October 2007, I received a call from a male who identified himself as a Mr. Young, stating he was calling in regards to calls I had made to the Obama campaign. This first call was in fact an attempt by Mr. Young to obtain from me the identities of anyone I had contacted concerning my 1999 allegations against Senator Obama. This first call shocked me in that this Mr. Young asked me why I had, excuse me, the first call was in fact an attempt by Mr. Young to obtain from me the identities of anyone I had contacted concerning my 1999 allegations against Senator Obama. The first call shocked me in that this Mr. Young asked me why I had not asked Senator Obama to disclose the sexual encounters I had with Mr. Obama in 1999. I was shocked, as I had never mentioned to the campaign or anyone working for the campaign any sexual encounters, as my call was prompted by drug allegations only. In mid to late October 2007, I received a second call from this Mr. Young, at which time I clearly became aware that this individual was personally involved with Senator Obama rather than just an employee of his campaign. The tone of the conversation had a sexual nature. Mr. Young did not once advise me how he obtained my phone number, which by this time had now changed to a Delaware number. In late October 2007, I received a text message from the gentleman identified as Mr. Young, in which he stated he was intimately involved with Senator Obama, and that Obama was discussing with him and his pastor how to publicly acknowledge Senator Obama's drug use in 1999, and that Obama wanted to be sure I had not discussed the sexual encounters or drug incidents with any media at that time. In mid to late November 2007, in another text message from Mr. Young, he advised me that Senator Obama will publicly correct his statement as to the last time he used drugs, and I did not need to concern myself with publicly disclosing it myself. The last contact I had with Mr. Young was in early December 2007, when he made it clear to me that Senator Obama had no intentions of publicly acknowledging his 1999 use of crack cocaine, and that Mr. Young was in fact doing nothing more than milking information from me for Senator Obama's use. I later learned that A. Donald Young, the choir director of Reverend Wright's Trinity United Church of Christ, Obama's now former church, and who was openly homosexual, learned that he was murdered on December 23rd of 2007.
Now, first of all, BB48 to a BB48 man, and greetings to Miss Tarisha Ford. My question is, if you have seen this clip before, put a 1 in the chat. Now, my question is this: how can a person go to the National Press Club, make these allegations against a presidential candidate, and the people who are running against the candidate never bring it up, never bring this man up, never go interview him? The Republicans never do it after he wins the election. It's as if this never took place, right? Now, I'm not here to vouch for the veracity of the statements that Larry Sinclair made at that time. You know why? Because I wasn't in that limousine. What I am here to say is, it's extremely interesting that no one ever brought this up as a way to derail his career and to pull their career forward. Because that's how politics is. Right? But that never happened. Now, at the end, yes, sister, he said he performed oral acts on Mr. Obama in addition to them using cocaine together. And then he said, and this is how crazy it is for me. The cocaine and the other stuff didn't surprise me as much as he said Obama produced a crack pipe. I was like, hold up now. Wait a minute. Just because he's black or just because he's mixed don't mean he got to pull out a crack pipe. You know what I'm saying? This guy's not true. When I first heard it, that's what I thought. I was like, wait a minute, crack pipe? It was like all of a sudden sound like Dave Chappelle. But no, in all seriousness. So that was my thing, is that this information just disappeared. No one attempted to use it for their benefit. Right? And then we remember, and again, I don't vouch for the veracity of her statement, but we remember when Joan Rivers and I thought she was lunching. She just blurted out, "Oh man, everybody knows Michelle." What she say? Everybody knows Michelle's a man, or something. She said something, and it was kind of off the wall. And I was like, "Man, this old bro tripping." And then she was dead. Again, I'm not voting for the veracity of her statement because I don't know that. I don't believe it. But making statements like that and then stopping breathing doesn't really help the argument much. That's all I'm saying, right? So at the end, after Sinclair threw all these accusations out, and really it was 12 minutes long, I cut it down to 6. At the end, he says, and I found out the person I was talking to was Donald Young, and Donald Young is dead, right? And I was like, okay. I mean, that's kind of wild, man. I don't know, man. This dude, we'll see. Let's see if there is a choir director found murdered by ABC 7 in Chicago. Okay, let's read this, right? It says Young's death has been ruled a homicide. His body was discovered Sunday morning inside his South Side home at 2320 East 69th Street. Donald Young was the fourth of 8 siblings. He was, according to those who loved him, the type of person who didn't take his life for granted. He lived every day to the fullest. So whether it was in the South Side classroom where he taught or at church conducting choir service every Sunday, Young made an impression on those who met him. So we have we have the stereotypical black black male homosexual choir director who happens to be at Reverend Jeremiah Wright's Trinity United Church of Christ. He says he was one of those success stories the average person would look at and say he doesn't have a chance. Reverend Jeremiah Wright, Trinity United Church of Christ. And of course, we remember Jeremiah Wright because he said some things about America and then Obama had to dump him. And yet before his death, Donald Young succeeded mightily. He was a choir director at Trinity United for many years. Amateur video shot just last week showed him doing what for him wasn't a profession, but a calling. He came to our church when he was 12 years old. And he wasn't brought because of his mother and father. He just came because of the other kids and became active in the church. The church became Young's extended family. Right? When news of his killing came during Sunday morning service, Reverend Wright said many parishioners got up and went straight to Young's home. The third floor apartment in the 2300 block of East 69th Street is where Young was found was found shot to death by his roommate. He was a person who believed in loving people with God's love, a love that a lot of us don't have, agape love, unconditional love, said Donna Hammond Miller, a close friend. Young was also a fifth grade teacher at Guggenheim Elementary. Family spokesperson Dennis Cole told ABC7 Young had just finished a double master's in early child education and math. His ambition was to become a school principal. There were so many good times, so many photos to go through, so many tears of joy and sadness, said Cole, but most of all, just the fact that we're here to inspire each other and to encourage each other the way we get through this at this time of year. Now, one thing that Mr. Sinclair didn't lie about is there's a Donald Young at that church who was no longer breathing. Right? So, again, this story connected to Larry Sinclair's talking about it, and this guy no longer breathing, should have been major news. How many people had heard about this at the time that it happened? I'm not in Chicago, so I didn't hear about it. I didn't know anything about Donald Young. I didn't know none of this stuff at the time. So I'm just wondering, was it just me? Was I late or not? B48 man said the Obama sued Sinclair and lost in 2012. Now that I did not know. And Sister Teresa says I've been living in the twilight zone for too long. An integrated school psychologist says, I remember this and it was never spoken of again. Right? So, and first of all, and I haven't mentioned this, but don't forget to smash the like button. I used to get irritated at YouTubers are like, man, hit the like button. But the reason why is because the old algorithm was like, oh wow, people actually look at this guy talking about this weird stuff. All right, we'll show them some more later on. That way you'll be able to catch the future videos that we do. So now, not saying that any of this is true. And y'all know I normally don't do conspiracy theory type stuff. I try to stick to the facts. But the fact of the matter is, Larry Sinclair did, in fact, put out this information. The information just basically didn't go anywhere. Larry Sinclair did, in fact, mention Mr. Young. Mr. Young stopped breathing after a while. Other people said things about Mr. Obama and his alleged sexual proclivities, and they stopped breathing. Mr. Obama claimed to be against same-sex marriage, but never was against homosexuality because he said some of his best friends and people that worked for him were homosexuals. Right? Have we stated any lies yet? Y'all let me know, are we still on the truth path? So, logic would dictate that the chances that the reason why Black people are in the position we're in, where we're leading and identifying as being homosexuals and have totally flipped our opposition to things like gay marriage and homosexuality in general, are because of a person that was put before us as a Black person who is a mulatto. And that mulatto helped open up the gates for the homophile agenda, which is currently taking place. And Black people are leading the way in being just overwhelmed and having our children overwhelmed with homosexuality. Because again, if you don't have these things being accepted, right? The gay marriage thing being accepted, when most Black people were against it. All the things that happened since 2012, none of those things happened. You can't have what do you call it? Drag queen story hour. Right? You can't have drag queens in school. You can't have the book Gender Queer. You can't have this whole push and propaganda of LGBT that's now directed directly at our children. It's bypassed us. Obama made sure that it bypassed us, and he opened the door for everything else. Because here's the thing, and I've said this for years, the hats especially, and Europeans in general, but the hats are the architects of a lot of stuff, move things gradually so they can calibrate how people are going to react and then strategize as they move along. So if something gets opposed, then they have to find a different way to do it. And if it's accepted, then they know they can move forward. So this point, 11 years ago, was a key point in our history as Black people in America. And we failed the test. And we failed the test because, as I showed earlier with the pastor, we were more willing to support a person than we were willing to stand on principles that the majority of us at that time as Black people believed in. And the reality of the situation is Black people in America are the canary in the coal mine for America. So when Black people change their idea about something, or Black people make something popular, or something unpopular, many other people follow along in our footsteps. And now this is the case. And I'm going to do a video on this, talking about, I think I'm going to do a video on it if I can get some more information. I was looking for some information. And one of the most interesting things came up. It said that the first known publicly performing drag queen was a former slave. Right? Now, the reason that I find that interesting because it goes to the point of the fact that this was something imposed on Black people, and that this Black man was broken to the point where he chose to turn in his masculinity to make a living entertaining whites. You see what I'm saying? And if you look at hip hop now, literally, or I guess modern rap music, literally has become a manifestation of that first drag queen, where the males now oftentimes dress and look like females. And many of the females rappers, they look like transsexuals. And some of them voices are so deep, their voices are deeper than the dudes. This how far we've been turned out. And that's why I said how Barack Obama turned out Black people. And Sister Tarisha says, all I can think about is the Boondock song, D. Riding Obama. Now hear this. I don't vote anyway, and I still didn't vote for him either. I don't remember that song. I must have missed that. I must have missed that episode. All I say is, it was named Aaron Magruder. Aaron Magruder used to be on top of a lot of issues, and he talked about a lot of things in that show. It was comedy, but it was also reality in that show. So I was looking up some information on the number of, and this is recent, this is UCLA. They said that is 1.2 million Black LGBT adults in the US. And they do this study and they talk about the condition that these people live in and so forth, so on. And this is self-identifying. And it says that over half of Black LGBT adults are under 35, 57%, compared to 34% of Black non-LGBT adults. It says estimated 61% of Black LGBT adults are women, compared with 56% of Black non-LGBT adults, and over 1/3 are raising children, 36%. Now, that last part, the 1/3 raising children, is we are seeing, if you're paying attention, because I've seen this, and I think I talked about it on this show, but if I, indulge me if I have. And you all tell me if you have seen this. A few years ago, I was on the train here in DC, and I'm sitting there, and I see a sister, her 2 children, and then standing up next to her is another sister who is obviously confused about her gender, excuse me. And so they're close enough to me that I can hear them talk. And as I'm sitting there and I'm looking at it, the children call the young lady who was standing up daddy. And I looked, And this person responds. Now, this person's obviously a female. They haven't uh, appeared that they had were on any hormones or had taken any type of gender assignment surgery or anything like that. But the woman who was sitting down had obviously told her children to call another woman who at this point is only dressing sort of like a male daddy. So when we talk about this, 36% of people who identify, who have the rainbow identification, because I get tired of saying all them letters over and over and over. What type of households are they creating, and what are they teaching these children? Because it was obvious to me that I'm looking at two females, but these children are calling one female daddy. What? Okay, so because we know this happens, right? And we're just using these people as an example. What happens when she breaks up with this girl? They break up, and then she suddenly decides, because I've seen this before, that she wants to get back and start dealing with men again. Now, how does she explain to her children that, yeah, I know I told you to call, whatever the girl's name is, daddy, but she was really a girl? And I mean, what happens in the mind of those children? How do they process that whole situation? Right? And these are the things that are going on in our community that Obama opened up the door for. Thank you, brother. You got ripped off. Not only can you follow me on Instagram and OTWTube and the like, but you can also follow me on Threads, at least for the moment. And I haven't put any threads up yet because I'm trying to figure out what I can say without getting deleted. But that's a whole nother discussion. And Unique One Express says this current look that a lot of these girls possess with the eyelashes and lace fronts look horrible. I simply don't comprehend, the appeal with the extras. Now the young women are imitating their favorite rappers. It's funny you mentioned that. I saw a video earlier today of Glorilla. And they showed different pictures of her. And it was so interesting because, she runs around with a lot of the blonde weave or wig or whatever is happening. I don't know what it is. And they showed a picture of her with dark hair that looked more natural. And I just, it just made it look totally different. And I was just like, why didn't she just go with that look? And then I just, never mind. But again, everything goes, do what you want, live your truth, quote unquote, comes out of this whole opening up the gates, right? Like, think about it. If Obama didn't popularize and turn the White House rainbow and get black people to change their mind and so forth, so on, do we have Lil Nas X? We don't think about it that way. Do we have Lil Nas X performing in front of our children? Remember, Lil Nas X performed at school. I did a show about that. Now the latest person is, and y'all help me out because I might get the name wrong. Sexy Red, is that her name? She went to a school and performed in front of children. And I don't even know her song. And I just know someone mentioned a line from the song, but I don't think that's the actual song. I can't even discuss it. I can't tell you the line. You just gotta Google "sexy red" and I'm sure it'll come up. Because I'm sure this person doesn't have but one song. And it's so vulgar. It's just like, how is this possible? But again, we open up the gates of hell. It's just, we have to understand. And I'm gonna say this. In fact, I'm probably going to put this on Threads because I meant to put it on Threads. But here's a problem that black people have. We have as black people. Black people have, over the years, developed this thing where we want to be pro something, but we don't want to be anti anything. And that's not how life works. Right? So I'm going to give an example. You hear a lot of people, well, how can I put it? You see a lot of people on the internet who claim to be some form of pro-black, right? And I've seen it over the years on the internet over the last 10 years or so. But when it comes time to be against something, then nobody's with that, right? Like, their pro-black isn't against anything. You know what I'm saying? You'll hear people talk about white supremacy, quote unquote, but they're not against any white people. Right? People pro-black, but not against the police. Police murder black people. People pro-black, but they're not against interracial dating. You see what I'm saying? You know, people pro-black, but they're not against LGBT, even though if we all LGBT, then ain't no more black people. And I'm just using that as an example, but it's something that I see all the time. I was like, oh, people be like, I'm pro-family, but I'm not anti transgenders reading to children. Well, you keep having these people read to your children, then you ain't gonna have no children. But we never want to take a stand against anything. Sister Teresa says, I see a lot of that in the black community. Woman is a man and also the father of children, but then gets pregnant by a whole dude. Hey, listen, I'm gonna tell you something, sister. You want to know how long that's been going on? Years. I'm talking about at least 25 years ago. Maybe more than that. I was in my. I was young. I remember older brothers telling me, and again, I wasn't hip to none of this stuff at the time, telling me about women who were allegedly lesbians that would call them and ask them, to get together, hook up. You know what I mean? Trying to not get vulgar. It's kind of hard to talk about this stuff without getting vulgar. And I used to look at them, and I used to, when you don't know, like the game, as I call it, when you don't know the game, you think sometimes that dudes is making up stories. Only later on, that I got older and I started seeing this stuff. It's like, oh man, he was telling the whole truth. I mean, I've seen females who claim that they don't like men and this and this and that. And like you said, then you see them walking around pregnant. You're like, well, you like that guy for that night at least. You know what I'm saying? I've heard other brothers since then tell me, yeah, man, I met this chick and she's like, I don't normally like men, but this and that, and blah, 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 blah. So it just goes to show that we're not that even in our degeneracy, that we're not set. That it comes is not coming from us, it's coming from our trauma. You see what I'm saying? She said, I understand we're all adults in the chat, but I also want people to see it afterwards. I don't want YouTube to pull the plug on it. Plus, because I talked that you got ripped off, so I'm blaming him. We are, when I get this last warning that I have removed, we're gonna see if we can get this channel monetized. We have enough followers now, thanks to you all, and we have enough views, I believe. So I just have to wait for the that restriction to drop and have 3 recent public videos, which we will have, and we're going to see if we can get the channel monetized. So that's why, try not to get too vulgar. Brother Malik says majority of females I went to school with were so-called lesbian are now grown with children, some married to men. That is interesting, but not surprising. Unique One Express says the cognitive dissonance and confusion amongst many of our people is sickening. Yeah, it'll make your head hurt. It will make your head hurt because those confusing messages are going to be sent to our children. And we are, as Black people, I mean, our family structure has just been decimated already. And of course, if you look at YouTube, you see the daily discussion that leads nowhere between Black men and Black women. And what I had to realize is that people are making content. People aren't looking for solutions. They're making content. They're not here to inform. They're not here to educate. They're making content. They're not looking for solutions. There are no solutionaries here. They're content creators. And black men arguing with Black women. And somewhere in here, an alarm going off. Black men arguing with Black women is popular content that's going to get pushed by the algorithm. So I'm under no illusion that this channel will ever grow to be big in the form of what's considered big on YouTube. I'm under no illusions of that. But as I said last week, I'm just here to do my job, which is to speak on these issues and to bring this information to the people because no one else will do it. And our school psychologist says, quote unquote, playing gay is rampant throughout the high school public school hallways, especially with our girls. I used to work for DCPS. That's not surprising. I don't know if y'all saw. Oh man, and y'all help me out. I cannot remember the basketball player's name. There was a basketball player. I believe he was just drafted, but I've never heard of him before. And they have videos of him humping on a teammate, classmate. I don't know. It was. I don't know what's going on. I mean, just be honest. Because again, I'm from a different era. If you did what that guy did to another male, that was a fight when I was growing up. There was no laughing. There was no joking. There was no, I was just playing. It was straight to the hands. In fact, you might not be breathing. And certainly, I mean, the idea of someone recording it back then, oh man, everybody might get shot. Sante 1000 says, Jalen Green, that's the name? Yeah, okay. I have to take your word for it because I had never heard of this person. But, I mean, it just goes to show that this stuff has penetrated, pause, maybe the wrong word to use, penetrated our culture to the point where our young people think that this is normal. And then another basketball player, what's his name? Miles Turner. I saw a picture of him looking like somebody's grandmother. I think they said he was at a WNBA game. I mean, I understand the WNBA game, but all the other dudes who were there were dressed like men, and then you come dressed like somebody's grandma. This dude's like 7 feet tall. I'm gonna just be completely honest. You got to be completely honest. We cannot defeat our enemies if 7 foot tall dudes decide they want to be women. I mean, I can't say no plainer than that. Whether we want to accept it or not, Black people have enemies. Thank you, brother. You got ripped off. Please hit the like button. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. Our subscriber count has gone up recently. I like to see it get up to a nice round number. We're about 23 people away from 600. But again, Black people have enemies. Black people still being randomly shot by non-Black people and Black people, just being honest. Black people are disappearing, especially Black women. And even Black men now are disappearing. Right? Black people still being found hung. All these things are taking place. And all people have come under assault lately by bioweapons and other means, which we'll talk about later when we discuss Robert Kennedy's remarks. And if you, as we are, and this is what's happening, if you begin to run out of masculine men, you eventually will run out of people. Somebody has to reattach their gonads and stand up straight. Dude, Kara says facts. Somebody has to be a man. Somebody has to stand up to certain things and say, no. You see what I'm saying? And if all the men are wearing dresses and all the women want to be men, you can pretty much count the days to the end of Black people. Which makes what Mr. Obama did. Well, because he's not really Black, so it's not treason. But it shows you how dangerous it was. Because he ripped open Pandora's box and let all the evil out into the Black community when we already had enough problems before he got here. Right? So that's why I wanted to go over this and address this and rehash this history, because I think we forget and the history gets changed and it gets rewritten. And we look at where we are now and we look at the state of our communities and we're like, what is going on? And then sometimes you have to just go back a few years and look at it and say, oh, that's what happened. And in this case, and y'all help me out before I go. Just answer this one question. Have I shown definitively how Mr. Barack Hussein Obama turned out black people? If I have done that, I need you to do two things. One, put a 1 in the chat. 2, hit the like button. And while I'm waiting for you all to do that, next week we will discuss the new culture wars. Because Brother Genie has been there on the front lines here in Maryland. I have some clips that if you're not on Telegram, you haven't seen of what he's been doing. And even though I haven't talked to him yet, we're going to get him on within the next month. And I see a lot of ones. Okay, cool. Again, we got another video, short form video. It's about 20 minutes coming out tomorrow at 8 p.m. And I'm going to work on Peace of Brother Crow. I did not see you come in. Greetings, straight Black Pride to you, brother. Man, I just lost my train of thought. Oh, and yeah, we got we have another video after that on Jason Roger Pope. For those who don't remember, Jason Roger Pope, known as DJ Kid, was HIV positive and claimed to have, and I think this claim has been corroborated, over 600 black women and underage girls, and also is accused of sex trafficking. And that is a case that has been going on for about 4 years. And finally, they got him in a courtroom. So I'm going to be doing a video on that. And Brother, you got ripped on. Brother, you got ripped off says, won't believe the video is coming until I see it in the queue because YouTube's going to ban this video. Well, we shall see, brother, whether or not they ban this video. And I mean, we shall see. It's been done before. You know, I've gone to sleep and had people call me in the middle of the night and be like, hey, I can't find the video. And so it would not be the first time. So make sure you tell your friends who might be interested, send this to them ASAP. You know what I'm saying? And we'll check in the morning to see if the video is still up. I thank you all for your support. I thank everybody who sends cash apps. You know, the cash app is going down the bottom, $ DC Radical 1. You want to email me anything, email dc.radical_1@protonmail.com. Of course, you can follow me on Instagram at dc.radical1. The Twitter, which I almost never use now, DC_radical_ONE. Go over to the OTW2 page because there's stuff that I cannot put here that is over there, and that's at DC Radical 1. And so, again, man, I just thank you all for just tuning in and giving me your support because, hey, the more people support, the more people watch, the more people view, the more people like, the bigger the channel gets, the more we can spread this message, and the more we can fight against the various assaults that are occurring, not only against Black people at this point, but occurring to the at this point, vast majority of the human population. With that, I say a BB for ODA and straight black pride.